One of the big stories we're tracking for you this morning on the AM report, using the hashtag Zimbabwean Lives Matter, millions across the continent are pleading with the African Union to intervene in Zimbabwe amid human rights violations and coronavirus funding corruption allegations. Now, this hashtag has reached millions across the continent in a matter of hours. The movement is in support of ongoing protest action against the imprisonment of journalist Hopewell Chinono, who exposed the alleged looting of coronavirus funds by government officials. Dozens of activists have been incarcerated. Some have gone into hiding since the call for protests began. Zimbabweans are gripped with fear and political tensions are rising in their country as the ruling ZANU-PF intensifies a crackdown. For more on the story, we're joined now on the line by reporter Xolisani Ncube. Xolisani, it's a story that's been unfolding, one would argue, over years. Just a little earlier, we spoke to Human Rights Watch, and it's been talking about the way in which Emmerson Mnangagwa's government came into power through a coup, that perhaps this is exactly what we should have expected.
Definitely. Well, one would understand that Emmerson Mnangagwa has been at the center of Robert Mugabe's regime in terms of human rights violations. Therefore, expecting a change probably would have been a miracle then. But he came in and promised people to say he would try and change and bring a new Zimbabwe, what he called a second republic. So I would agree with the Human Rights Watch to say this is what we expect. This is what we should have expected when we allowed a coup to usher in a new administration. But again, there was a sense of hope, that sense to say things might change. Alas, things have remained the same. And as you rightly said, there is this hashtag which has gone viral and has taken the world at the center to say Zimbabwe Lives Matter. The police have gone out to unleash brutality against those who critique government. The army is on the street to try and thwart any defense in terms of anyone who tries to oppose the thinking of government in terms of corruption, economic recovery, plunder of resources. All those issues are at the center of saying Zimbabwe Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Therefore, indeed, one would have expected a better Zimbabwe, but yeah, we have this one, but we already had this on Robert Mugabe.
Yeah, absolutely, Xolisani. Given, despite what you've just said, there was, if we think back to the inauguration of Emmerson Mnangagwa, it was an occasion that was awash with hope. And so I'm sure for ordinary Zimbabweans, there is, in some way, shock, in a big way, disappointment at what is unfolding in their country now when there were these high hopes of a better Zimbabwe.
To use the correct term, I would say they are regretting. That's a better term I would use. They are regretting to say, is this the Zimbabwe that we marched for? Remember, Robert Mugabe never wanted to leave on his own volition. There had to be army coming in and people supporting the military. For the first time, the military in Zimbabwe, I would say, there was a protest and nobody was injured in that protest. People went out to protest. There is that kind of regression to say, is this what we as Zimbabweans had hoped for? But one thing I would want to just highlight, and very important, is that Emmerson Mnangagwa was a henchman from Mugabe. Emmerson Mnangagwa was the right-hand man for Robert Mugabe. So therefore, to expect anything from him was just to be too ambitious for Zimbabweans, I would say. And again, you have to understand that ZANU-PF is a third party. ZANU-PF tactics has always been to use the army. What is now worrying is under Robert Mugabe, he would unleash the police. But under Emmerson Mnangagwa, he's now using the army. It is the last instrument for defense that is coming in to assist in dealing with civil matters, dealing with the politics of the people. No longer about the defense of the country's sovereignty. Those are the issues which people are saying, indeed, Zimbabwe Lives Matter. We cannot have the army, the last line of defense, coming in to settle simple criticism coming from the people against the government. Robert Mugabe would use the intelligence, he would use the police, and people would deal with that. There would be tear gas, there would be, be given shambles and everything. But now the army are not afraid to shoot people. That is the most worrying aspect in this matter.
Xolisani, as you and I are talking, dozens of activists have been incarcerated. Many more of them have gone into hiding since the call for protests against the Zimbabwean government began. Hopewell Chinono, he exposed the pilfering of coronavirus funds by government officials. We know that he was also incarcerated. Are you, in a very real way, taking a risk by talking to the media, by being as outspoken as we are as journalists?
You know, there are two things that you have to understand in Zimbabwe at the moment. You have to face the reality that Zimbabwe's crisis needs someone to talk about it. Otherwise, as a country, we will die and suffer in poverty forever. That's number one. Number two, there's also the aspect of the responsibility of every Zimbabwean is to raise the voice and say, there is a time when things have to come to an end. Hopo Chingwano, yes, he's incarcerated, and as you might know that on Thursday there will be a ruling on his bail application by the High Court. We don't know whether he'll be given bail or not. Those are the issues that you have to come in. But one or the other, someone has to pay the price for being a Zimbabwean, has to pay a price and defend their country. It is not a crime to be a journalist in Zimbabwe, but the government has criminalized journalism in this case. Hopo Chingwano, we've got also another journalist in Blawayo by the name of Ncube. He's been hounded by the police because he was involved in exposing the graft in terms of COVID-19 funds management. His brother was abducted and he is in hiding at the moment. Opposition leaders who are in hiding. All those are the issues which at some point someone has to talk about them and raise the issue and say, there has to be a time when things must come to an end, and the time is now. Otherwise, the country will crumble.
Xolisani, Ncube, thanks very much for speaking to us on the AM Report.